Next story I wanted to talk about is about a guy named Tony Perkins. Now, I've talked about him a few times. It's been a while, though. This clip is from early February 2021, and I have another clip that's from June 2021. But there's a more recent one from mid-November that I wanted to hit on specifically, because there's some controversy happening right now in the Republican Party. We'll get to the story in a minute, but let me give you a refresher on who Tony Perkins is. Like I said, this first clip's from early February 2021. Give this a watch.
These are challenging times. I am not going to put any kind of spin on it. The policies that are coming out of this administration are literally from the pit of hell.
Okay, that's kind of a tall claim, I guess, but obviously we know who he voted for. He voted for Donald Trump and contributed to all the bullshit surrounding Biden getting inaugurated, of course. Let's keep listening.
Within hours of taking office, forcing you as a taxpayer to be involved in funding abortions, not just here in America, but around the world.
That's a complete misrepresentation at best, a full-blown lie at worst. You know what? I'm going to have to read it and tell you guys exactly why, because it's important context. This article's from AP News. Title is Biden Rescinds Abortion Restrictions on U.S. Foreign Aid. The article says President Joe Biden on Thursday, of course this is forever ago, like when Biden first took office, rescinded a regulation that barred U.S. foreign aid from being used to perform or promote abortions. His decision, while expected, was cheered by pro-choice advocates and some humanitarian groups, and denounced by pro-life groups. The move also included a restoration of American funding to UN Population Fund and withdraws the U.S. from an international accord that promotes anti-abortion policies. So this wasn't like suddenly your tax money is paying for abortions domestically and abroad. That's not what this was about. It was just a single policy change that allowed foreign aid to go to organizations that participate in or promote abortions. That's just fear-mongering and going way over the top when he said,
taxpayer to be involved in funding abortions, not just here in America, but around the world.
That's just nonsense. That's not what really happened. It's a misrepresentation at best.
The attack on religious freedom.
What attack on religious freedom? What's this dude even talking about?
Attack on our children with forcing schools, this transgenderism on elementary schools, secondary schools, colleges.
Again, what is he even talking about? Attack on children? Won't somebody please think of the children?
Won't somebody please think of the children?
And our nation's military. Our military has now become, once again, a laboratory for social experimentation.
The guy is obviously just repeating absurd, unhinged from reality talking points that make absolutely no sense. He's just repeating things that people want repeated, verbatim practically. So a couple months later, that one was from February. This one is from mid-June 2021. And guess what? Guess what June is? It's Pride Month. So he had some things to say about Pride Month. Let's listen to what he had to say here.
Tonight, surviving the rainbow onslaught. When you can't turn on the television, shop for cereal, or scroll through Facebook without being hit over the head with LGBT pride, how should Christians respond?
How about just don't respond at all? Just live your fucking life. Does that seem like an amicable solution? Why do you have to respond at all? If you don't want to get involved in this, then just move on. Why are they obsessed with forcing their beliefs down our throats? If you have a gay cousin and he's talking about going on a vacation with his husband or something like that, guess what? That's a normal part of life that everybody does. But as a Christian, Tony Perkins apparently wants you to be morally outraged when you see something like that on Facebook. When you see a gay relative engaging in a normal part of life that everybody else does, you should stand up and speak out and start shit with them. Nobody wants you in their business, so stay out of it. That is an amicable solution to me.
Thanks to woke corporate America and the most radical administration in history, there's no escaping the left's forced sexual revolution. What does the Bible say about confronting the culture's rebellion?
The culture's rebellion. I guess that means being gay is rebellious. He is another one of those people, obviously, who seems to be under the impression that this is a choice, that you can just choose to be straight or gay if you want. I mean, that's what it seems like to me. And he's going to attack you for it, for making that conscious choice.
How did we get to the point where celebrating sex and transgenderism became a 30-day event that rivals Christmas?
It does not rival Christmas. It's like Black History Month. It's just a recognition that there are people out there who are historically oppressed and mistreated, and your job is to recognize their contributions to society. Simple as that. And you know what? If you don't want to, you don't have to. Just move on with your life. Do your thing. Nobody is actually forcing you to sit here and recognize that LGBT people are normal members of society. You know, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But that isn't what he wants. He wants to seemingly actively cram his Christianity down your throat.
Is it just me, or is it almost like a neon sign that this is called Pride Month? The very thing that when we read throughout Scripture is the downfall of man is pride. It's almost as if, as I prayed a few moments ago about shaking a collective fist in the face of God.
You wonder if the spiritual forces behind Pride Month have tipped their hand.
Wow, man. You wonder if the spiritual forces behind Pride Month have tipped their hand, i.e., Satan is behind Pride Month. Satan is apparently encouraging people to be gay, and he tipped his hand. He made it too obvious. We know it's Satan because he named it Pride Month. It's too obvious. These people are so disconnected from reality. It is ridiculous. So anyways, the point is, that's Tony Perkins. I wanted to give you a little bit of lead up to who he is before I cover the next story, which is on friendlyatheist.com, written by Hemant Mehta. The title is Christian Hate Group Leader Slams RNC Chair for Pandering to Gay Republicans. As I mentioned, the Christian hate group leader is Tony Perkins, guy we were just talking about, and the gay Republican group is the Log Cabin Republicans. Surprisingly, it is a Republican group that is actually pro-LGBT. Bizarre, I know. Let's read the article and see what Hemant Mehta had to say. The Log Cabin Republicans, a conservative group that foolishly pretends the Republican Party is a good fit for LGBTQ people, recently held an event at Mar-a-Lago, naturally. Donald Trump was in attendance, as were plenty of other Republicans who desperately want LGBTQ people to vote for them despite actively promoting anti-LGBTQ candidates up and down the line. I actually heard about the Log Cabin Republicans originally from American Dad. I don't know if you guys have seen American Dad or if you know the episode, but there's a whole episode about the Log Cabin Republicans. They seemed to believe in the episode that Abraham Lincoln was gay, and I think there's a compelling argument that he was bi in real life, for real, and that he was an atheist. There's a compelling argument for it. Of course, we have no way of knowing for sure now, but, you know, that's a suspicion that I have. Either way, the Log Cabin Republicans were heavily featured in that American Dad episode, and that's how I heard about him in the first place. I didn't actually realize they were real. Apparently they are. Honestly, seems like a completely foolish idea to try to... I guess what they're doing could be productive in its own way. It seems futile. Getting the Republican Party to accept the LGBT community seems completely futile to me, but I guess I could get on board with an argument that it could be constructive. Republicans have been the ones fighting the LGBT community since day one. It's the conservative party. They want to conserve traditional values, traditional marriage. They don't want you to exist. But here you are, supporting their candidates. I mean, who do they even vote for? They must be voting for candidates who are anti-LGBT. They must be. I don't know of any Republican candidates who are actually in favor of gay marriage. I mean, Donald Trump didn't seem to be vocally opposed to it, and didn't he, like, hug a flag saying he loved the LGBT people or something like that? I don't even remember now, but I seem to have some faint memory of Donald Trump doing some really weird shit with a flag. Anyways, other than that, I don't know of any Republican candidates or campaigns that actually support the LGBT community. I'm sure they're out there, but they have got to be few and far between. Let's continue reading. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel spoke at the event and announced that the GOP was committed to working with the Log Cabin Group, whatever that's supposed to mean. Here's a quote. They enrich it by adding unique perspectives to our party and recruiting even more diverse candidates and supporters to join our cause, McDaniel said. The RNC is launching our first ever RNC Pride Coalition, she continued, adding that RNC Pride will work alongside our other coalition groups to invest in communities and mobilize support for the upcoming midterms. Yeah, I guess Republicans are kind of lacking in the diversity department, if you will. It's pretty much entirely older white guys for the most part. Honestly, it's pretty much entirely evangelical Christians. That is like the biggest voting bloc that makes up the Republican Party. You can't win an election as a Republican without getting an endorsement from evangelicals, or without pandering to evangelicals at the very least. And of course, evangelicals are diametrically opposed to the LGBT community. I'm honestly not sure what the Log Cabin Republicans are accomplishing, but obviously this is causing a serious rift. Just the fact that Ronna McDaniel, the head of the RNC chair, went to this event in the first place created a huge rift. So anyway, let's keep reading the article. This is Hemant Mehta speaking. You can't roll your eyes hard enough in response to that. The Republican Party actively opposes LGBTQ rights as a matter of policy, embraces anti-LGBTQ bigotry from its top candidates, and nominates openly bigoted people to the federal bench. I'm not surprised McDaniel would pay lip service to LGBTQ Republicans. I'm shocked that any LGBTQ people are dumb enough to fall for it. You'd have to be as gullible as conservative atheists who think the GOP supports church-state separation because they keep talking about how much they love the Constitution. Yeah, I can definitely agree with Hemant Mehta on that one, but there is a weird number of heavily conservative atheists. Like, I don't know where this is coming from or why there are so many of them, but it's kind of fucking strange. The Republican Party is the one that wants to create a Christian nation in the first place. The Republican Party is the one that can't win elections without evangelical support. It is the party of the religious wingnut, basically. And they pander to them constantly because they know that. Look, I understand having a difference of opinion on some conservative issues. For example, I get it. You want to argue about taxes, that we should lower taxes to stimulate the economy, so on and so forth. I get that. We can debate that. That's okay with me. I mean, you're wrong. Trickle-down economics has been disproven as complete garbage for decades. But we can debate it. I'm down. Let's talk this through. If you have conservative ideas, I am so cool with you. We can talk about this. But voting for somebody who is doing their best to oppress people and hurt people and institute a Christian nation is mind-blowing to me. As an atheist, how could you possibly justify voting for a candidate who wants to set up a Christian theocracy? How could you justify voting for somebody who wants conversion therapy as a gay person? How could you justify that to yourself? It just makes no sense to me. I get that atheists, by definition, only share one thing. There's only one thing in common by default here, and that is a lack of belief in God. I understand. But along with that fact that there is a lack of belief in God, you have to realize that we practically do live in a Christian theocracy, right? And it shouldn't be shoved down people's throats. I mean, those things kind of logically follow from that premise. Anyways, let's finish reading this article, and then we'll take a look at the clip with Tony Perkins. This coalition is idiotic. This is Hemant Mehta speaking. It doesn't even actually exist. Yet even the thought of it is absurd because the GOP is never going to do anything substantive to improve the lives of LGBTQ people, certainly not without Democrats leading the way. I say that knowing that there are plenty of Democrats who aren't ideal allies either. Now here's a twist for you. Another conservative is also condemning this purported coalition, but he's mad for a very different reason. Tony Perkins is the leader of the anti-LGBTQ hate group Family Research Council and someone whose own political history involves David Duke and the Confederate flag. Oh wow. David Duke, by the way, is the leader of the KKK, or the ex-leader. I'm not sure if he still leads it or not. He called into a radio show hosted by Fox News reject Todd Starnes yesterday, saying that McDaniel's comments were so absurd that she should resign immediately. Let's give this clip a listen. This is Tony Perkins talking to radio show guy Todd Starnes. Check it out.
There's a lot of RNC members in leadership positions that are upset about this because they were not told. This was something that Rana did on her own. Quite frankly, I think it's time for her to take up something else and leave the party to those who I think can chart a path forward, restore what has been lost, and make sure that the Republicans, the conservatives, regain the majority both in Congress and continue to see victories and gains in states across the nation.
You know, honestly, it seems to me that if that's his goal, if that's what he wants for like Republicans to like regain seats and stuff, you would think he would embrace this idea. The pro-LGBTQ Republican coalition or whatever, right? It's a grand tent. You'd think he'd want to bring more people into it to get more votes, pander to the LGBT community. He doesn't want that because he fucking hates the LGBT community. He fucking hates it. He will never work with the LGBTQ community. That should be a signal to the log cabin Republicans that they're fighting on the wrong team. I honestly do not get how anybody who is a member of the LGBT community could possibly justify ever voting for a Republican when this is their response when you do. Get the fuck out. That's their response to you. You vote for our candidate. I don't give a shit. I don't want you here. And I will do whatever it takes to prevent you from being a member of this party. Not only is that the response from the Republican Party when LGBT people try to get involved, but this is the exact same response you'd find if atheists were openly trying to get involved in the Republican Party. I get you have conservative values, I understand that, but the people you're voting for fucking hate you. I don't know what would drive you to vote for somebody who fucking hates you fundamentally to your core.
Needs to step down, is what you're saying.
I think so. Yeah, I think she needs to step down. I think she has outlived her purpose at the RNC.
They are willing to burn any bridge to get rid of the LGBT community, to get them, to excise them from the movement. They don't want their votes. They can go to the Democrats. They don't give a shit. Get the fuck out of the Republican Party. That seems to be the message to me. Why were you guys even voting for them in the first place? Seriously, why were you doing that? They fucking hate you. They hate me. I understand you want lower taxes. I understand you have these ideas about how I don't fucking know. What other things do Republicans lean on that aren't social issues or culture war issues? I understand you're afraid of socialism. I understand you want lower taxes and all that other shit, but these people hate you. You are not getting anywhere while you're voting for them, I promise you.